How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Zim's Beer Review. I'm your host, Garrett Zimmer. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be tuning in today, whether you're following on YouTube or on Twitch, or if you're downloading the podcast wherever podcasts are found. Thanks for tuning in. So, back to our regularly scheduled program after our last mystery brew review. We're back to just reviewing some beers that I get interested by when I'm at the liquor store. So, the one we have today is by a brewery that we have actually reviewed in a previous episode. It is 10 Barrel Brewing Company. If you haven't seen, it's kind of obvious by the name of the video or the podcast. We're reviewing 10 Barrel Brewing Company's Goggle Tan India Red Ale. I've never had an India Red Ale before. I've heard of 10 Barrel Brewing. Like I said, I've reviewed their beer before. It actually wasn't a beer. It was a crush, I think they called it. It was like a sour raspberry, like a malt beverage almost. So felt like I should give them another review of an actual craft beer. So the one we're doing today is the Goggle Tan India Red Ale. Not really sure what to expect from this. I've heard of India Pale Ale and I've heard of Red Ale, but I've never heard of an India Red Ale. So maybe I totally missed it and this is like a popular thing. Oh, or maybe I'm right and this is like a play on the two beers that are like mashed together. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Not sure. But before we get into the beer review, I want to let everyone know who's listening. We just started up an Instagram page. Trying to get a little bit more followers on there. I'm going to be posting a lot more photos on there. It just seems to be the logical place to put a lot of these photos of different beers and the reviews themselves. A lot of the other social media programs don't really fit the photo theme that I'm going for, that I want more than Instagram does. So a buddy of mine told me to give Instagram a try. So I'm starting it up. I'm new to the whole thing. So you can find me on there at Zim's Beer Review. And I'd appreciate a follow if you're interested. So anyways, today we will be doing the Goggle Tan India Red Ale by 10 Barrel Brewing Company. Let's open this right up. Okay. So, got to get a glass here. Hold on. Not a dirty one. Okay. Pouring this in. It's called a red ale. The color coming out of it so far looks like a deep brown. Not getting a lot of red. I guess it is more red than like an IPA, but it's not as red as I would have expected for a red ale. This still looks deep brown in color to me. Pretty tight bubbles on the head. Smells hoppy. It smells like an IPA. So I'm thinking that this is going to be a play on the red ale mashed up with an IPA, which is an India Pale Ale. So it's the India Red Ale, which would make a lot of sense. Doesn't say anything on the bottle about that, but that's going to be my guess. So I'm going to give this a try, see what we think. It's definitely hoppy. It actually has a sweet characteristic to it, it's not sweet like sugary caramel, not like that. I'm not getting a lot of that. I'm getting sweet as in like it tastes like fruit almost. Like I'm definitely getting a fruit sense in this, like an orange maybe. No, maybe almost more maybe a little bit of orange, a little bit of grapefruit. That's kind of like the tartness of it. I'm getting grapefruit. It also kind of smells like maybe like an apricot almost. Getting quite a bit of fruit scent and taste in this. If you gave this to me blind, if this was a mystery brew review, I would 100% guess this is like a grapefruit IPA. That's what it tastes like. It has that hoppiness, that hoppy characteristic that you would expect from an IPA. A lot more than you would expect in a red ale. If you've never had a red ale, this one kind of catches me off guard. I'm not really sure why they call it a red ale, to be honest with you. The coloration on it is not super red, and the flavor is right in line with an IPA. So kind of odd that they went with the India Red Ale, but it could be a marketing thing there too. So as usual, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the brewery. In this case, we've already done a review on 10 Barrel, but I'm going to go ahead and do it again for anybody who's new or hasn't checked out the previous one. So 10 Barrel Brewing Company is a local craft brew in Bend, Oregon. They started in 2006, and they opened up their distribution 3 years later in 2009. They opened up their brew pub in 2010, and they started doing building their production brewery in like 2011 or 12. So it took a couple years to get going, 2006 to 2012, before they really started distributing. It was pretty small in Bend only, before they really started to expand. Doing a little bit of research on them, I found that there was about 3 years ago, because I think it was in late 2014, just over 3 years ago, there was a big push back from a lot of their fans, I think. 10 Barrel Brewing Company was sold to or bought by, however you want to look at it, Anheuser-Busch. So a lot of their hometown, fans felt like it was like a sellout move, I think. Going to the big guy, you're going to Anheuser-Busch. You're not the local craft brew anymore. Part of me wants to say that it's Oregon. So part of me wants to say that that's kind of like the hipster vibe. Like, oh, this is cool because nobody else does it. You don't want to be mainstream. That's kind of the vibe I was getting reading through some of these articles. But I don't see anything wrong with a brewery, a small brewery, wanting to expand and be. I mean, if it takes being sold to a larger brewery to expand your production and expand your distribution and where you're available to get your name out there. I mean, I'm drinking this beer in Wyoming right now, and had they not been sold, there's a good chance that I would never have heard about 10 Barrel. So, I mean, it's good and bad. I mean, I'm sure there's cons to it. I'm sure there's pros to it. But I think, hey, if you're trying to expand your brand, that's a good way to do it. And I don't fault them for it at all. But it sounds like a lot of hipsters did. We'll see. I don't know. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. So, they are primarily located in Bend. They do have multiple brew pubs. Some of them actually have restaurants in them. Like I said, they're located in Bend. So they have a brew pub in Bend, which is where they brew their beer. They have what they call their beer belly food cart in West Bend, and they're building a bar/pub there in West Bend that is currently under construction. They also have a pub in East Bend, so that's 3 in Bend if you're counting along at home. They also have one in Portland, which is northern Oregon. If everyone should know where Portland is. Then they have one in Boise, Idaho, San Diego, California, Denver, Colorado, and I think that is it for right now. But 3 of them are located in Bend. One of them's new and not quite done in Bend, so 2.5, we'll say. And then a couple spread out through the West. That's about the furthest east that they go is Denver. And I think if I remember right from our previous review, I want to say the Denver one is relatively new. But I don't know for sure. I think it is, though. As far as the beers that they have available, hold on, I gotta take another drink of this. I just keep smelling like this apricot smell, and it's like super enticing. So they have some beers. They have 8 beers that are available year round. They call their trail beer, just like an average drinking beer. A couple IPAs, a couple of those sour beers. We reviewed the raspberry one previously. They also have a cucumber one. They have what they call a pub beer. I'm interested in knowing more about it. A double mosaic and I think it's called a Sinister Black. A Sinister Black Ale, which is, I'm assuming, is like a porter. maybe like a stout along those lines. That's what they have year round. They have a couple small batches that they do of like pumpkin and one-off stuff that they'll do. They call those small tank, but then they have 2 seasonal beers. They have the Pray for Snow and the Goggle Tan, both of which are winter beers. Goggle Tan, Pray for Snow, obviously they're both winter. I would like to see them have like a summer beer. I think their beer's pretty darn good. I think they could make a good summer, maybe like a shandy, like a lemon shandy would be good. I'm not a huge fan of the sour crush things that they're doing. That's just not up my alley. I would like to see like a shandy, and even that's light. But when you're going out and you're on the boat and you're fishing or you're swimming or whatever you're doing, I would like a lighter wheat beer. And clearly from this beer, I can tell that they're good at getting that fruit flavor in there. I don't even know if there's fruit in this. Like, they don't even advertise if there's fruit in here. They just call it an India Red Ale. That's it. So they're good at getting the flavors in there, whether it's through the hops or actually through fruit itself. I don't know. I feel like they could probably make a pretty darn good summer shandy, whatever that may be, to compete with like the Shock Tops and those style summer beers. But that's to be seen if they decide to go that route. I don't know. So yeah, I think this is a pretty darn good beer. I wouldn't consider it a red ale. I would think that this is an IPA. It's a little darker in color, but it doesn't carry over to the flavor. And the hops are really up front. Definitely a hoppy beer. You can smell the fruit more than you can taste it, but it's there, so it's not like overpowering sweetness. It's actually a pretty good beer. And I don't know the alcohol content on this offhand. I think it's, let me see. I'll take a look. I should have looked this up first. 5.6% alcohol by volume. So, I mean, it's all signs point to this being an IPA. That is right in line with what I would expect. I think that's what they're going for. Not sure why they're calling it red ale, but that's probably marketing. So anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been another episode. If you want to find me on Instagram or on Twitter or on YouTube, you can search Zim's Beer Review. If you want to get a hold of me and send me a question or a comment, I'd love to hear from anybody. You can send me an email at zimsbeerreview@gmail.com. And I will put all the links to my social media, as well as my buddy Jason Shaver, who makes our cool bottle openers. These are available for sale if anybody is interested. I will put his information in the description of this podcast and video, as well as 10 Barrel Brewing Company. So if you want to know more, just scroll down or click more and get a little bit more information. So until next time, happy drinking.